just do like a map, and the map is kind of rolled up like a scroll. It's unrolled a little bit so you can tell that it's sitting on a map, and then on the bottom part of the map where it's rolled up, it'll have it'll just say Wanderlust, and it'll be in probably like the same style of font, that like old school traditional tattoo font that's right there and right up there on my mom tattoo.
That should look cool. I need to get another one too. I ain't had one in a while.
Yeah, so I started us a little early.
I saw that.
And we've got 5 people watching, and we're talking about tattoos, not photography, by the way.
That's right. This is Tattoo Minutes with your host, Jamie McDonald.
So if anybody wants to jump into the conversation and talk about tattoos tonight on this week's episode.
That's right.
Yeah, we're just running it for just a few more seconds here before we go live. It gives us an opportunity to make sure that nothing in the beginning of the stream is cut off.
Right. So you get to hear our Mambo Jumbo.
Mambo Jumbo Jumbo. Hello,
John Thomas
and John. I don't know if Julie's watched the show before or not, but hello, howdy, hey, hi. And hola, John. Well, I think my clock is about ready to hit 8 o'clock, and it is.
Ding,
so
ding, ding, ding.
Maybe I'll do the intro. Hey, what's going on, Steve? And Dwayne, what's up? Holy cow, it's just filling up pretty quick. So, hey, welcome to episode number 151 of Mirrorless Minutes. So Julie says she has watched the show before. Very cool.
Is that Mark's wife?
Nope. Julie worked with Becky at the doctor's office in Portland.
A Mike Tyson tattoo.
A Tyson tattoo. Yeah. You know, so
on my face like that.
A picture of Mike Tyson
on my face
on your face. Yes.
Right.
So we were talking about tattoos before the show.
Z-Man.
Hola, baby doll. We were raise your drinks, boys. Okay, I'm drinking water, dude.
I'm drinking caffeine-free Pepsi.
See, we're playing it safe tonight. It's funny. So we both raised them up. I wasn't even really thirsty to take a drink, but it's up in the air. It's like the reflex there. You have to just sip. But no, we were talking about tattoos. Jerry's talking about potentially visiting my cousin down in Jackson, Michigan. She's a tattoo artist, and she's pretty much where I go for everything now anymore. So anyways, episode 151, the title for the show might be a little interesting. You know, we're talking about, if you don't know how to pronounce it, how do you pronounce it, Jerry? Cowboy.
Yep.
So we've got a guest that we're going to be interviewing tonight. I'm not even going to go into it right now. I'll let him explain who he is, what he does, and what he shoots and all of that. But so far for the beginning of the show, I'm going to talk about my experience with the latest firmware update to the Olympus cameras that adds the bird detect autofocus and a new subject that I found to photograph. Maybe I've got a new barn. Potentially. And somebody has a special bottle of Scotch for me. And I have a special ice ball maker to make ice. If I want to put ice in my Scotch, I usually just put a couple of drops of water in it. But and then I'm not sure what Jerry's going to talk about. Jerry's a surprise. He's Jerry's
going to wing it tonight.
He's my wild card winging it.
I brought Cowboy on, so I don't have to talk. I'll let him talk.
He took the easy out by giving his talking to somebody else. I think I'm going to have to try that out.
So let me say something. I bought a bottle of Scotch one time. She mentioned Scotch, so I got to bring this up. So I was down here editing photos, and I never had Scotch before, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing shots of it, and then next thing I know, the bottle's almost gone, and then I'm like, "Yo, I'm freaking drunk, man." I was sitting here, the room started spinning. I was like, "Whoa, that shit crept up on me, boy."
It's strong. It's not a joke.
Right.
My first experience with Scotch was in British Columbia, and it was on an Olympus event there. And the PR person, I kind of call him like our handler. He kind of just took care of everybody on these PR events. And he was a Scotch drinker, and he knew his stuff. And he asked the person at the bar at at Whistler at the ski resort there if they had this particular Scotch. And she said, wow, yeah, we actually do. We do have that one. Good call on that, or whatever she said, she was impressed that he knew it. And he turned to everybody and says, oh, you're going to like this. This is really good, really expensive Scotch. And I'm like, ooh, okay, let's try this. And she brings this glass out and sets it on the table. And I could smell it from like 5 feet away. And I thought, oh, dude, this is disgusting. And I said, I don't think I can drink that. And he said, oh, you got to at least taste it just so you can tell people you've tasted it. And I don't even remember what it was, to be honest with you. And it was horrible. But then I, years later, started kind of enjoying bourbon, and
you became a whiskey snob.
And then I got a bottle of Scotch, and I kind of liked it. And I guess the Scotch that I drink is like a weak Scotch. It's the Balvenie. It's not one of those really peaty, smoky Scotches, but it's good. I've kind of developed a taste for it.
Nice.
Yeah. And we spent the first 10 minutes of the show, 5 minutes of the show talking about tattoos and Scotch.
Right.
Maybe I shouldn't tell people it's a photography podcast, but it's hard to not talk about the things too.
Yes. Good stuff, man.
So let me just jump right in, and I'll talk about my experiences with the Bird Detect autofocus on the E-M1X. I went a couple of weekends ago to a place here in Michigan near Jerry. And if you know me, you know the location, but I'm just not going to broadcast it out, just because when we were there, it was like the paparazzi there, because this location happens to get snowy owls every single year. And when we got there to shoot them, I took Shelly. Shelly had never seen snowy owls, so I was excited to take her there. And we were going to meet up with Jerry there. And I get there, and there's probably 15 cars there, and there are people all over the place. And these owls, they fly 2,000 miles from the Arctic Circle to get here, and they're exhausted. And, it's just a lot of pressure on the birds. So that's why I'm not talking about where they were at. Regardless, I was really excited to get up there and show Shelly the birds and give the new Bird Detect autofocus a go. And I was not disappointed. I'll just say that. I have plenty of experience photographing birds with the E-M1X and the EM1 Mark II and the Mark III without Bird Detect enabled on the camera. And my kind of trick for it with birds in flight was to use the AI detect setting for planes. It seemed to find birds fairly well when they were flying, especially if they were in a glide pattern. For whatever reason, maybe the shape of the bird looks like a plane. I don't know, but it seemed to work pretty good. But
so I got a question.
Yeah, fire away.
Do you have to select the bird on the back of the camera? You know how, like, when you do tracking, you have to draw a square around it, or does it automatically know that it's a bird and it clicks on?
It knows it's a bird. It's so crazy.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
it's. So I know what you're talking about drawing a square, because with tracking on a drone, that's how it would work. You'd select this little box, and it would say, okay, this thing is where I track. With the AI detect on the Olympus cameras, if you select a car, cars for racing or whatever, trains or planes, or now birds, they've taught the software to recognize all these different shapes that could be a bird, whether it's sitting or in flight. And it did really, really well. I was shocked as how well it went. So the first thing that I did when I got out there was I had turned on the Bird Detect autofocus. Sorry. And the owls were just sitting on the ground, and that's really easy. And I know I've seen a lot of people say, well, of course it's easy for it to work that way. Yes and no. So snowy owls are white and this mottled brown. And when they're sitting on these grayish white rocks with brown grass all around, they blend in really good.
Yep.
And initially, the first one that we saw, it didn't see it right away. As soon as the bird turned its head just a little bit, it recognized the silhouette or the outline of the bird and immediately put the box around the bird. And the owls. So John's asking if you get a green box around the bird when it focuses. So I saw the white frame around the bird as it sat there.
What if there's multiple birds in the frame?
Yeah, so I haven't had a chance where I've run into a situation where there's multiple birds. So it was just pretty much with the snowy owls. That's going to be the extent of my experience right now. I did do some driving around after that day to look for other birds that I was interested in shooting. I mean, I could find birds all day long everywhere else, but I just want to actually get photos of things I enjoy. So I didn't test it on anything else. But on the owl, it worked good. And I should have tested it out there, I guess, on the ducks, because there are a lot of, ducks and other waterfowl out there. But again, on the owl, as soon as the owl turned its head, I think the camera recognized enough of a shape to recognize that it was a bird, and it just locked right on from there. And I have 3 images to share from that afternoon. They're not anything like fantastic, but they are sharp and in focus. And again, I know I could have just as easily done that with a center focus point, and a back button or half shutter press to lock focus. But I didn't have to have the camera pointed and centered directly up on the bird. It knew, and I tested that. So I had switched so that the camera I have a couple of shots, portrait orientation, some in landscape. When I was shooting in landscape, I purposely had the camera so that the bird was in the far right third or the far left third of the frame, and it still grabbed the bird, regardless of where the majority of the frame was pointed.
Nice.
So it really does make a difference. Now, tracking in flight or locking on in flight, that was much better than it was my old way of doing it using the airplane AI detect. But again, I'm shooting a white bird in flight against water. Now, granted, excuse me, when I do get to the images and share them, you'll see that, and the bird there's a lot of contrast between the bird and the water in the background, but still the water's fairly light. And it had no problem keeping up with where the bird was in the frame and following along with it. I will say that with any kind of bird in flight, I don't care what autofocus system your camera has or what new technology it has. I still feel like I used to say 90% of getting the keepers of birds in flight is on the photographer and their technique. I would say with this new firmware update and the bird detect, it probably lowers it to 80% the photographer's job and 20% the camera keeping up. At the end of the day, though, again, with one of the shots that I'll share, it just really comes down to your ability to understand how to track an animal and things like that. And I'll just pop those up on the screen right now real quick and just go through
Richard.
those. So yeah, again, there's a good number of people that watch this show that are from Michigan. They'll recognize this location. Jason Helmer, I think, said it best. It's a nut show out there, and it really is. It's sad.
Yeah, it's bananas, dude.
It's cool that so many people get to see them. They're incredibly beautiful and they're big. I don't think people realize how big snowy owls are. They're huge. Right. But unfortunately, a lot of the people that go out there don't understand.
Right. They don't let them birds rest, man. They chase them all over the little pond area right there.
They sure do. I mean, you'll see the birds take flight and they'll do this glide pattern, out over the water or wherever, and then they'll come to rest, and then everybody gets back in their cars and they just follow them down the road and keep doing that all day. It's kind of crazy. But so this is just one of the shots that I had done. I wanted to mention too that it'll lock onto the bird's eye, and at the point where the bird closes its eye, the focus jumps off the eye and just snaps the whole body. So excuse me, kind of hiccuping here. It did a pretty good job of maintaining focus on the bird once she closed her eyes and started to yawn. You're very welcome, Shelly. And I know I've tried to jump in on conversations as well and tell people some of these things about how far they travel and how a lot of them die when they get here. They're starving when they get here. So The next one, again, so all of these shots are with the EM1X and with the 300 millimeter f4, either with the 1.4 on or without the 1.4. So this is no crop 300 millimeter f4 with the 1.4 on it, just straight out of the camera. One of the rare occasions where she woke up and opened her eyes. I didn't unfortunately get any where she was looking at me. I think she was watching the people that were out in the road that were probably closer than they should have been. The next one, though, is probably one of my favorites from the day, even though it's not technically the greatest, but it was fun to be able to track her as she was unfortunately kicked up by people. And, but she was cruising down low. I've got a couple of frames where she got much further out, so I didn't bother bringing them in to share because she's small in the frame. But when her wings are lowered, flapping, they're just about dragging the surface of the water. It's pretty amazing to watch how low they get, and also just how freaked out the ducks and the other smaller birds get once these ones get up into the air. They get pretty spooked because they do know that she's a predator.
I want to share my owl photos.
Yeah, pull them up for sure. So Jerry's got the luxury of these being really not far from home. He can visit, he could visit every single day if he wanted to. And I'll just drum back and answer a couple of questions here. So Richard's asking if we think we'll get bird detect on the Mark III. I don't know if there's a technical limitation on why you wouldn't be able to. I don't understand the motivators behind why some cameras get some things and others don't get, the same features, even though they're capable. I would hope so. I'm curious to see how JIP handles things like firmware and updates to cameras, once they've got complete control over everything. It'll be interesting to see if they do things a little different than Olympus.
Hopefully not. Hopefully they don't screw it up. All right. Let me share.
And I'm not sure if Bob was responding to somebody else or if maybe you had asked earlier, but he said he could switch the bird with the joystick or just shift the camera to center the one you want and let it lock onto that and then kind of go from there. Let's see. Evolution of a Homestead. I do not recognize this person in the chat, so that's cool to have somebody I don't recognize on here. Nice tip about the tracking. Just followed birds in the air like you would a car with a telephoto a few days ago. Yeah. You're from Jackson Facebook group. Very cool. Yeah, so the bird tracking thing it's definitely similar to a car. And just one of the things that I like to tell people, if your camera has image stabilization, a lot of cameras will let you cycle between like an auto stabilization or your lens, or maybe turn off, the different axes. If you're panning shots, depending on your camera or lens, you might want to shut off the lateral stabilization. Keep the vertical on, to help if you kind of get a little up and down as you're panning, but you want to let the lens or stabilization kind of not try to correct for your panning motion. That way you will get the blur on the horizon the way I did on the owl shot that I shared.
All right, I'm going to share my photos.
All right, bring them on up. And then as soon as you get your image on the screen, I will pop it in. Oh.
Are we there?
If it's a snowy owl in a snowstorm on a bright sunny day. No, it's all white for some reason.
What? It just worked, dude. What the heck?
No, I'll let you pull it up as soon as you I'll be able to see when it kind of pops on the control screen here, and then I can add it in. But so yeah, I almost bought that lens, Richard. The Olympus is 100 to 400, not their 150 to 400 $7,000 lens. But they're much cheaper long distance lens. There you go, Jerry. You got them up there now.
I didn't do nothing. Oh, it must have just been a delay.
But I decided against getting that lens just because I don't think I would use it enough. I've got the 300 and the teleconverter. So,
all right. So this is my shot. After me and you talked a little bit and I was leaving, I'm riding down it's kind of like a 2-track in the middle of these two ponds. with rocks on both sides. So I'm driving, and I look to my left, and I see a bird, owl, sitting there, and I'm expecting him to fly away as I ride past, because I'm literally, what do you think that is? Maybe 20 feet?
Yeah, 20, 15, 20
It's
feet.
close. It looks farther in the picture than it really is.
Yeah, I mean, just if you look to the left of your side view mirror there, I mean, you can see that there's 5 feet of grass before you hit the rocks.
Right. So I'm sitting there, and the bird just watches me ride past. And then he's watching my car as it pulls away. So I stopped, and I was like, if he's not going to move, I'm going to take a picture of him watching me. So I took a picture of him, and then I was like, you know what? I probably should at least back up and get an actual picture of him. So I backed up, and this is shot with the Sony A7R2, the Tamron 28-75, and this is 75 millimeters, and then I cropped in a little bit.
Nice.
So them are my owl pictures for the year.
Sweet. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to be able to see something like that. And again, you know, I tell people if they're going out to those locations like that. So Jerry mentioned that it's a road that divides these 2 big containment ponds, and cars driving by is one thing that doesn't tend to bother the birds whatsoever. There are numerous times you'll drive past them or see someone drive past them, and they don't even open their eyes. That's fine. But it's when people get out and they start getting closer and closer, you know, that really, well, it freaks the birds out. They have no idea what in the heck you're doing, you know. And I've seen people do that. I've seen people walk up and purposely get them to fly just so they can get an in-flight shot.
I've seen somebody out there trying to feed them one time.
I've heard a lot of stories of that, and that's another thing that people don't understand is a bad thing to do. They think that if the birds are hungry, they can go to the pet store and get feeder mice. But what they don't realize is lots of times these feeder mice are just, it's like they're factory bred in pet stores, you know, and they can have parasites, and they can have, you know, other bacteria and things like that in them that the owls don't have a way to fight. And you could potentially just be killing them by feeding them and baiting them in for photos. I can't stand the thought of people baiting in birds. It's gross, or other animals for that matter.
Right.
I mean, says the guy who has set up bird feeders in his yard and fed the birds all winter to get photos. But I feel that's a little bit different.
Yeah, that's a little different.
A little bit different. So yeah, it was kind of cool to be able to do that and experience that, and to give that firmware a test run. I've got a couple other locations I want to try to get out to once we have a blanket of that white fluffy stuff on the ground, and get some other bird photos testing out that software. But in the meantime, I think I'm done using that feature for a minute, and I'll jump in and share just the last couple of photos that I have. You could probably have seen them in the last screen share that I did, kind of in the thumbnails on the side. But
is Greg in the lobby?
Yeah, he's in the lobby waiting.
Okay.
Yep. So we're good there. And let me just do this. And we will share the window. Boop. Okay. So I just didn't want you guys to see what the other ones were, even though you know what they are probably. So I mentioned, you know, I used to photograph this barn. I'd been photographing it for like 10 years. And over the summer, it finally blew down. And it was a little bit of a bummer, a little bittersweet, because it was just one of those things where if I was needing motivation or just running short on ideas, but the sky was beautiful or the weather was interesting, then I would just go there and use that in my shot. But I think it was probably back in March of this year. I was out driving again, just randomly, and came across this old truck in this field. And the people obviously put it out there, you know, kind of as a big lawn ornament sort of a thing. You know, I mean, it's kind of staged. They have little rocks set up around it, and the area's, you know, cleared around it of tall weeds and things like that. So I ran out and snapped a couple of photos of it. And that was right after I had gotten the Sony A7 III and the Samyang 14 mil. And so I just kind of wanted to run out, pop a couple of shots with that lens and camera combo, and again, came across this truck, and I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. So I went out and snapped a few photos. Nothing great. It wasn't dramatic outside or anything, but it was a test. And the other morning, and people who follow me online probably will have seen this photo somewhere online.
Shot, man.
Thank you. It was, I got up early, you know, for work, got my shower out of the way, got dressed, and looked outside and thought, man, I think I see a little bit of color coming up, and I think I've got time to get out and get some photos before I have to clock in for work for the day. And drove off, and I thought, man, maybe I should go check out that truck. And it was cold enough to where, you know, there was frost that had happened overnight, and maybe it started warming a little bit later in the night. So we got fog as the frost was starting to cook off, and I drove out to that truck, and lucky for me, just kind of the way the truck is positioned in the field, I think it's going to be a good spot for sunrises and sunsets pretty much all the time. So I just waited for the light to kind of keep getting a little bit better, a little bit better. The clouds were starting to break apart, which was a little bit of a bummer, but there were still enough high clouds to catch some of the pink from the sunrise in the morning. So again, hopped the fence on this property, and I'll talk about that in a second, and ran out and just fired off a couple of shots. So this is shot with the Tamron. Oh, what was it? The 17-28. Sorry. And it's a bracketed shot. I do a lot of bracketing, especially when you're in.
Was this tripod?
No, this was handheld. So I'm getting pretty good at hand holding the Sony. I can't do it anything remotely close to what I could do with the Olympus hand holding.
No.
But there was enough light.
Shooting wide enough, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Yep, that was what I was kind of hoping for. So I'm glad you mentioned that. So can I talk about that for a second? What you just mentioned, because it's a good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So so Jerry mentioned I was shooting wide enough that stability might not be too big of a problem. And what he's getting at there is that once you get really wide, once you're wide angle, the slight motions or movements that you make are less visible in the finished image unless you get really, really, really zoomed in on it. And a good way to visualize that is to put a telephoto lens on and hand hold it up to your eye, and you can see every single little movement you make is exaggerated, and then put on like an 8mm fisheye and you hardly see anything.
Yep.
So again, that's how that worked out for me here, because the shutter speeds were a little slow when I was bracketing to get the brightest exposure, the brightest bracket. But it worked out for me. So that's what this is the 17-28 at 17mm. I always try to shoot base ISO, even on the Sony, even though you can shoot crazy high ISO, I always try to shoot at base just to get the cleanest image possible. So it's 3 shots at 3 EV, and just popped into Lightroom, merged to HDR, and just a little bit of hue saturation and luminance adjustment. And that's it. No filters on this one. I didn't have time to futz around with throwing filters on and all that jazz.
It's probably better without it, man. That's a really cool shot, man.
I appreciate that. It's probably my new jam. Is this truck.
So can we say this is Jamie's truck now?
It's gonna happen.
You know, you said to say it's Jamie's barn. Is this now Jamie's truck?
Right. And then was it last weekend? I think I met up with Mark Miller, and Mark he just did a presentation yesterday for Nisi Filters.
I know he did it while I was at work, dude. I didn't get to see it.
And he wanted to just hang out and shoot and potentially gather some more content for his presentation. So I took him out to that truck. And while he was shooting some longer exposure shots, I was just kind of
70-180.
No, actually, this is the 85-1.8.
Oh,
there's something about the bokeh you get from that, just the depth of field just looks bananas on it. You'd probably get a really similar look though with that 70-180 at 180mm, especially at 2.8.
Yeah.
But kind of the same thing, I just went out. Mark was taking pictures of the truck, and I was walking around taking photos of him taking pictures of the truck. And I'm not going to go out someplace like this and not take a couple of photos for myself. So I'm
bringing a model to your truck.
No.
In the summer.
So what my plan is to I'm going to run off probably an 8x10 of the sunrise photo that I just shared a second ago. Right. I think that the property owners are just on the other side of where that truck is. There's a home back there with a pole barn and stuff. And I'm just going to print and mat a photo of that truck, and I'm just going to knock on their door and just introduce myself and just tell them what I do.
people under the stairs and
Oh gosh, yeah. Maybe
wrong turn.
I'll have to let some people know when I'm planning on doing that. If nobody
Right,
hears
right.
from me in like 2 days, I'll give you I'll have the address out there for people. But
So-
I'm hoping that what I can do is turn this into my new muse, you know, to replace the barn. And
Right.
some thoughts I've had are again, getting their permission and letting them know that I want to do things throughout the year and document it, and that I'll always, you know, share what I do with them.
You know, you ought to put together a book on the barn
Yeah.
and then show them the book.
Yeah, that's a good idea, because Shelly's been telling me I need to make the book a reality instead of forgetting about it, which I've kind of forgotten.
Right.
But again, you know, coming up with ideas for how to use a subject like this, you know, Christmas lights. I thought it'd be cool to get like battery powered LED Christmas lights and just kind of string some up around it. Or if I could get permission from the property owners to just kind of go out there with my lawnmower and mow a patch all the way around it, and then spread a bunch of wildflower seed and just have wildflowers growing around it. Just ways to dress up and kind of, it'd be my model, Jerry. Instead of putting outfits on the truck, you know, I'll just be dressing it up with wildflowers or things like that. But
right.
again,
That's
I'm just
a good
hoping that
idea.
this becomes my new jam. So Russ says the book and then give them the print. The book shows past work. That's a good point. You know, giving them one photo, they might be like, okay, you know, he took a cool picture. But if I could show them, you know, that I have a passion for subjects that I had spent 10 years photographing in this barn, that I would like to invest that sort of passion into what I assume is something that they really enjoy, because they did stage this scene out there. So maybe they could appreciate it.
Right. So I got a story about that. I'm a Muskegon Lake. There's a little cul-de-sac that's back. It's you don't know where it is. It's back by one of the marinas. Anyway, there was some trees down in the water over there, and there's no place to park because it's all posted. But there's one house that's right up the street from there. So I went and knocked on the door and I asked him, I'm like, this is when I first got my ND filters, and I wanted to go get some long exposures of the water and the clouds. So I went and knocked on the door and I'm like, look, can I park in your driveway? I'm a photographer, blah, 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 blah. She was like, yeah, go right ahead. And the pictures came out really cool. So what I did was I printed one and I took it back to her for letting me park there. She was super stoked, man, when she saw that photo.
Nice.
And she was like, thank you, thank you. I was like, this is just for letting me park here. You know what I mean?
I'm hoping I get that kind of a person that owns this truck, you know, and not somebody that's like, what the hell do you mean you were in my field photographing my truck? You know, because people can get kind of weird. Helmer wants to know what light source you're using right now, I think, for the recording.
Yeah, actually, Jay, I'm using the light that I got from you off camera to my right, and then I have my light wand to the left, and they're both set at daylight. So
sweet. All right. Well, look, we're about 30 minutes in. What do you say
the man of the hour, drum roll.
Get a little cowboy action going. All right, so we'll pull in Greg Rott now. How's it going, Greg?
How you doing, fellas? What's going on, Jerry James?
What up, though, man?
Not much, man. Listening to y'all.
Sweet.
Yeah, I like that truck picture, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We like that picture of you and Jerome and Derek playing down at the Steel Gully.
Yeah, that's a throwback for you right there.
All right, so look, we'll just give you some time to introduce yourself and just kind of talk about where you're at, what you shoot, maybe how long you've been shooting, and a little bit about gear and stuff if you want to talk about that. And then we'll probably jump into some photos that Jerry's got ready to queue up. And then when he pulls them up on the screen, we'll just kind of let you talk about each one and all of that. That sounds good with you?
All right, sounds good to me.
All right, cool.
Give everybody a little introduction. My name is Greg Johnson. I'm born and raised here in Muskegon, Michigan. I got the nickname Cowboy from my motorcycle group, and from which my motorcycle group transitioned to photography. I started doing photography maybe about 12 years ago. I started off doing motorcycle calendars to raise charity money for the kids here in the community for the back to school fund. Got on backpack school supplies. From those calendars, the photography took off, and I started branching out, doing senior pictures, weddings. Then I got into the modeling game. Then after that, just been ongoing.
Super cool.
Yeah.
I love hearing that that you got going in this, and right out of the gate, you're thinking about not just what you're creating, but you're thinking about community and stuff too, and giving back. You know, that's something that I think more people should probably consider doing. You know, if they're into their craft and if they can use it to benefit other people. I mean, it's always good to hear something like that. So I'm
that's true.
For sure.
pretty stoked on that. So you've been shooting for like 12 years. Are you a mirrorless user? Do you use a DSLR? What are you shooting with?
Yep, I'm now using the Nikon D850.
Okay.
That's what I'm shooting right now.
Yep.
I started off with the Sony Cybershot. I think I worked with that for about 2 years.
You should have seen some of the cameras this dude used to shoot with, man. That's crazy, the images he got out of some of these cameras. I'm like, that's wild.
It's the skill. I mean,
right,
I've seen those YouTube videos where they take these different pros and they'll get them out and then they'll just hand them this like toy camera and they come out with some bangers, you know, just with that. It's all about what's up here and knowing how to use it. Like
he showed me some of his early, I think it was some of your print work, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the first calendar.
And then some of them the images that were shot in that calendar were shot with a point and shoot.
Sweet.
I was like, yo, that's bananas. Those pictures, I would have never thought that was a point and shoot.
So did you it sounds like you were into motorcycles first.
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, hold on. I was just gonna say, Greg, tell me a little bit about your backstory on your photography roots. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Like my father, he went to hikes, and then one of the Muskegon hikes started doing photography. They got their first photography class. My father, and then the original owner from the camera shop in Muskegon hikes. They both were classmates. They took the photography class together. So he went on doing photography. Then my brothers came along. So Saturdays usually go outside and play. Instead of playing, we got drug along to church events and weddings.
Yep.
Carrying his camera equipment. We was the human tripods back in the day. We was little kids. So that's where a lot of the photography came from. So every year for Christmas or our birthdays, he bought us all a point and shoot cameras. So every year we got the same present every year, a new camera. So I didn't take it serious, but I always took the camera with me. Then when I got into motorcycling, I kept the camera underneath my motorcycle seat and I always take pictures when I went somewhere. So after that point, by the time I turned 30, that's when I started taking photography seriously.
That's awesome. You didn't have a choice. It's destiny.
Yeah.
Right.
It was beaten to me.
Cool. Nice. So, well, that kind of changes where I was kind of going with this. So I was thinking, you got into bikes and then, all these cool things you do, the cool bikes, the cool people, naturally, I mean, at least to me, it seems naturally you'd want to photograph that stuff, but you already had it. It was ingrained into your DNA already. So it was probably easy for you to just kind of make it click in your head that, man, I should be taking pictures of all this stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I know Jerry just started doing trying to go back and do film photography. And basically that's how I started. My father did, he shot with a Canon and did film photography. And I was using a Fuji and did film photography then. DSLRs came around. So it's kind of funny to see how that transition happened. So now my father bought I think it's a Canon Rebel. So he's been trying to learn the digital photography game coming from the film, and he's like, forget it. He up in age now too, so he don't want to learn nothing new.
Right. So when you first started shooting stuff, as far as the motorcycle world is concerned, was it immediately jumping into the model shoots, or was it more just shooting bikes and just shooting events that you were at? How did you end up where you are now with shooting models and having stuff in publications and things like that?
So I think it was more me going to events. I went to a lot of the bike events down south. I did more of a just meeting people and asking say going to people, ask permission if you can shoot them. So that's how I started off. And then with that, it started to get to the point that I think it was one event I went to in Myrtle Beach. There's a bike went on. There was a group of girls down there, and they made it themselves. They used some of the guys' motorcycles, and they created a calendar and they started selling it. So when I seen them do that sparked the idea, and I can go back home and try to get this going too. So when I got home, it was basically I didn't have anything to show, but it had to just be me with telling people what I was trying to do, bring to the table, and see if they were willing to come out and help. So I had a lot of people that I had a couple of no's, but I had a lot of yeses that came out and helped and support the event that I did. So I even had sponsors for the first calendar too that came out and helped.
Jeez.
Yeah.
It's a good way to start if you've got that much
Put in that work.
support behind it, you know.
Yeah.
That's a good deal. Love to hear that. So I know that there are people who are either watching or who are going to watch this. I mentioned publications. So you've had stuff published, and I know as a photographer, that's kind of like one of those dream things to get your stuff published somewhere, you know, that's not like me publishing it on my own website. You've had your stuff published places. Can you talk about like how that even came to happen? Did you reach out? They reach out to you? Like, what's that process like?
It was funny about I think my 3rd year into doing photography, and I got on Model Mayhem, and I had a lady who ran a Vor magazine out of California. It was a pretty much an online digital magazine. She noticed my work on there, so she reached out to me. It's like, I want to know, can I use some of your pictures and publish you for like photographer of the month, that magazine? So I was like, yeah. I was like, go ahead. So she told me to send a couple of pictures. Then she wrote a little article about me, about how same thing, how I started, how I got into photography stuff too. So that was my first publication. After that, I think I got into my 3rd calendar. I had a model out of Lima, Ohio. She was able to get published in the Horse magazine. And with that, that wasn't something I shot, but that was just a model I used, and they was able to send her out to get paid for that shoot. They gave her front cover, like a 7-page spread for that magazine.
Wow.
So just within the last maybe 2-3 years, I reached out to another guy that he got word of me from trying to think of the motorcycle company. Yeah, it was a magazine that came out in New York, and they reached out to me to handle the events here in Detroit. It was a biker magazine. Somehow they disappeared, but the other guy reached out to me. He's like, hey, I need some of your work in my magazine. And that was a fast life magazine. So his first magazine, he did a double front page cover. So he gave me the back page front cover, but then he put 2 of my models in that magazine. And then we did another follow-up the next year. He gave me front cover again. And then we just did a shoot that Jerry helped me out with, a cosplay shoot. They just featured me in that one. That's a spinoff he has called Babe Watch, and that's out of Orlando, Florida.
Wow.
So I actually got 2 more magazines called Christmas Edition and Wu-Tang Forever Edition magazine that they're doing the publication for is coming out also.
Wow. Man, so when did this all start? Like, how many years? Like, how long ago was the first like publication? You know,
the first actual publication was about 4 years ago.
That's fast.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's kind of snowballed, it sounds like, and it kind of sounds like you get one under your belt, and it just kind of helps lead to the next one and the next one, and there's like this validation thing where people are like, oh, I can look back and see he's been here, and it just kind of opens up more doors or more opportunities.
People used to say I was the hardest working man in the biz. No, it ain't me. It's Greg.
Yeah,
Greg's got content every day. This dude has 3 images to post every single day.
Hey, don't listen to Jerry James, this guy.
You want to pull some images up, Jerry? We can start sharing some of those, and then Greg can kind of talk about, you know, whatever he wants to talk about setup, like lighting setups or gear that was used, inspiration for whatever, you know. We'll just kind of go with that and let him speak to him.
All right.
And then
Are they up?
Yep, I'm gonna make them go full screen unless people want to watch us talk. But I'd rather everybody see the pictures bigger.
All right, Greg. So just tell me when to flip, and then so you can talk about your images and your inspiration. And you know, the only thing I didn't add to these was the lenses you used, because I didn't know what you used for each photo.
All right, I'll chime that in. This one right here is kind of funny, Jamie, because not the girl in the picture, but there's a girl that's she's retired from the Air Force. She stays out eating rabbits. Okay. She went out. This is in Howell, Michigan, and she was out in the area and did a video. And she knew I did photography, so she sent this to me. So she told me where it was at, and I went and found it. So I had a friend for rabbits. She had this Oriental dress, and I was like, you know what? I got an umbrella on my Amazon basket I'm gonna use. So we went out there, and perfectly wasn't anybody out there that time of day, and we did this shoot out there. And I believe this image, I shot this with my Sigma, the 70-200 lens on this image right here.
It's cool. It totally has a Chinatown vibe to it, you know.
Right.
It does.
Yeah.
And I believe I did use a 2-light setup on that also.
I know where you're at here.
Oh yeah. That's your stomping grounds.
Yo, don't you have a picture of her sitting on top of that light, boo?
Yes, I do. I think I sent it to you, the
Yo,
black and white.
Right. I thought I saw one, but I couldn't find it. Yeah.
Yep, yeah, I sent it to you. Yep, but
No,
she's
I
actually
meant
from.
one in color. No, not just the black and white one.
Nope, I do have one in color. Yep.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
I
Yep.
just wanted to know because I make sure I ain't going crazy because I thought I saw that.
Yeah. This one I shot this with my Sigma 24-70 lens.
All right,
This one, right? Yep.
so I'm gonna have to ask, because I know people are always curious about this stuff. So this isn't natural light. I know I've seen the behind the scenes of you out shooting, so I know you work with off camera light. You want to just give people a little bit of an idea of what kind of equipment you use, or?
Yep. For this one, we tried. Actually, me and Jerry was laughing about this because we was tired of carrying the umbrellas, the large soft boxes out in the wind, blowing them over. So I just bought a Godox, the 8200. And I used the Magmod, just the regular gel, I mean, not the gel, but the regular
the boot
for it.
Yep.
So I used that, and I think I had it off to her right shoulder when I did this shot on this one. Yep, yeah, I did.
Yeah, you have to come back over. Now, does this model? She's the one that lives here.
No, she's in Lansing.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
yeah. The whole area down behind where she's at, there's a park, like an island park. They've got a gazebo down there that's all covered in Christmas lights and stuff. So if she wants you to do another shoot, I'm gonna suggest if there's snow, go down that way. It looks pretty cool lit up down there.
All right. Yeah, we actually walked over there after we did that and we walked out by the monument where the cannon is at by the tree.
Yep, cool.
And shot off over there. Yep.
All right, you ready?
Ready. Oh yeah, the cosplay shoot.
Yep.
This was shot here in Muskegon out at Hoffmaster Beach. And we actually brought we used the Glow, a 42-inch softbox for this shoot. I should have actually, you got that picture, Jerry, the one I shot of you holding it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is actually shot too also with the Sigma 70-200 lens.
So is that with that's just one light off camera, or do you have two?
Yep. That's one light off camera.
That's one light. This is actually one of the shoots that got published in the Cosplay magazine.
So
she's wearing
she's lit from two sides, so I'm assuming then obviously one of them is the sun.
Sunlight, yep. Yeah, off to her right hand side will be the sun.
Okay. And then you balance it out with the light on the other side.
Yep.
Sweet.
Yeah, Jerry's out there strong arming that wind. The wind was blowing. It was blowing hard that day.
I was there for this one too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I remember this one. This one we did run a 2-light action on this one. Both Jerry, what size was your Glow softbox on this one?
34-inch.
All right, yep. So we ran the 34 and the 42-inch. I think we had the 34 in the back and the 42 in the front on this one.
Yeah.
This is also shot with the Sigma, the 70-200 lens also.
Okay. So when you're shooting something like this, how do you know, like, okay, so posing, I mean, this is about the bike, but the girl is there to accent the bike. You know what I mean? So you can't have her dominate the whole scene. You can't have the bike be everything in the scene necessarily. So when you do a shoot like this, like, are you literally just walking completely around and just taking shots from like a whole bunch of angles, or do you just kind of have a picture in your head?
With my shoots like this, mostly I go out, I pregame. I go out before the shoot, and once I know what I'm shooting, like I knew I had the bike in mind, and I go and find an area to accent the bike. And I just remember the area, and what caught my eye was that door on the storage unit behind it. So I wanted to make sure that I accented that door along with the bike, and make sure I had the model in between those to stand out, to bring everything out too.
So like the bike, the color, the paint on this bike is just insane. Do you okay, so the model, I'm just gonna guess she's wearing a wig in this.
Oh yeah.
And to me, is that something that you planned, or does she plan? Because the color in this whole image is just on fire. It's so sick. And if she had a red wig, no. If she had black hair, no. Any other color, it just would not work the way this one did. Is this you? Is this her?
This one, that's crazy because it was actually her. They planted, I only sent Jerry this one image, but it was actually two girls. And the other girl had a blue wig, same
Mhm.
style that matched the bike. So they kind of like
yeah.
flip flop. So one had the blue wig, another had the blonde wig.
Mhm.
So and the outfits still was kind of like a dominatrix style,
Yep.
but different styles to it. The other one had like a leather dress on,
Okay.
a mini skirt. So they planned it out well, and then she came to me and said like, no, I got a blue wig, I need a blue bike, and I was like, I got just the bike.
Wow.
So it all flowed together perfectly.
That's
So this
cool.
was kind of, they wanted to shoot this, correct? And you just put it together?
Correct.
So
Gotcha.
when you say
There was two girls there.
is one of them the bike owner?
No.
No.
Oh,
Yeah, an actual bike owner in this picture, I've been dealing with him. It's crazy. I was dealing with him when I first started shooting. He was supposed to be in my first motorcycle calendar, but our timing could never connect.
yep.
So we were able to shoot his bike, but he had repainted it again. So we just did a shoot, just a fun shoot to do.
Yeah.
So next time he has a brother, like their whole family runs a custom bike shop, and they do a snowmobile racing too. So,
Oh wow.
but his brother has another bike that was featured in the first calendar. I mean, not the calendar, but the first magazine that got published in.
Okay.
And he brought that bike out too.
Like this, Jamie.
No, it's
it was-
insane.
It was,
It's so
it was
freaking
crazy.
cool.
I actually took a picture around sitting on the bike. Yeah, I got a picture of the bike owner sitting on it on my Instagram.
Yeah, you got to see his gold bike. I got a picture of his gold one too. We actually gonna shoot that probably this summer coming up.
Nice.
Oh yeah, it's probably like one of my favorite shoots this past year.
The color in this is just amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, this is one of them situations. Once again, I had to find something to make sure that the colors popped on this one. I
I don't
knew
know
what we
how
were
this
doing.
dude. I don't know how this dude found this location, and I drive by here all the time, and I've never seen it.
This location is actually it's like an old toy store in Grand Haven. The lady said she purchased the building. She painted that whole building by hand,
Wow.
and she has like just like creepy toys and all type of like just toys you wouldn't see anywhere else inside that building. So
Yep.
same thing. I pulled up. I went inside, asked her for permission, and she almost broke down to tears because she didn't believe somebody wanted to shoot a building. She's like, "Yeah, go right ahead."
Cool.
So she came out, took a picture of us and everything.
So for a shoot like this, is this personal project? Is this for the model?
This pretty much is a personal project, and pretty much both. She wanted to start shooting, so we'd be like helping building her portfolio.
Mhm.
So when I've been doing like a few different series of shoots with her too. So this was something I want to do with roller skates. I never did a roller skate shoot, so I'm like, I want to do that, and I want to make sure I did something with a lot of color on this one. So it's actually worked out well.
I don't know. I'll just talk. Well, however, the cohesiveness of color here is just insane. I've seen that drink Bang in the store. That can, it's blue and pink, and she's got pink wheels, pink top. The building is blue. This is just insanely good. And that yellow door, just boom.
All right.
Oh.
Thank you.
And is this off-camera lighting on this too, or is this just all?
If I was about to say, I used with this one, I used my newer strobe, and I just used one light on this one. I think I had that off to the right of her, and the sun was off on back of her left shoulder on this one.
Okay, cool.
And I wanted to shoot this later in the day to get the golden hour effect, but she had to be to work, so we shot this maybe around 1 p.m., 2 p.m., and it was burning up hot outside, so we was both sweating.
Yeah, I think the middle of the day shooting like this worked so good.
Yeah.
You know, it makes the color stand out.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was kind of afraid I was gonna get like some sun bleach, but it worked out pretty good. Oh yeah, the good old record store shoot. This is probably like one of my favorites.
Yeah, this one was good, man.
Yeah, and this is actually I just had picked up my Nikon D80. Excuse me, my Nikon 850 camera. So this is my first time shooting with that camera.
Yep.
But I didn't have my lens yet for it, a full frame lens, so I was using my kit lens from my 7100 camera. So
I had to tell Greg, you're shooting full frame now, son. You can, you can work
and
magic.
I was just surprised how good the quality still came out just using the regular kit lens with that camera on the shoot. And this one you can tell I kind of just changed up a little bit in Photoshop, messed with the colors and everything and the tones on it.
So this was shot in an actual record store, correct?
Yes, it was.
That's actually what I was going to ask. If this was like, okay, so this is the kind of thing that I would imagine people are going to want to know, because I want to know too. Do you just go in? Do you know the owner? Do you go into the store and just be like, hey, we love this store. It's cool in here. Can I bring a model in and take a few photos? I mean, how does that work?
Yep. What was it? It was a hamburger shop next door. Do something to eat. I happened to notice the record store, so I went over and I was like, man, this is nice. I went in. The owner actually was there, and I told him what I wanted to do, and he was like, no, it's kind of funny. Like, a lot of people been coming here like doing rap videos and everything else using my store. He's like, come right on in. Like, what day you want to come? I let him know. And we did this during business hours too. So we got a little rush, and the rush was maybe like about 20 minutes. Then after that, there's just the owner and a couple other people in there too. So we shot around everybody in there. So they actually let us go behind the counter on this one and shoot this picture.
That's cool. So anybody that's either watching or that listens to the audio version of this, remember that if you see a cool location, it's like I talked about wanting to do with that truck and going up to the owner, and like Greg did with the store owner, and he did with the person who owned the toy store.
We did that with a shot, that shoot with Jay too, at that yellow building.
Yep. You just talk to people. People are interested in what we do, so don't hesitate to ask.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that is it for images. I should have asked for more pictures from this shoot, because, dude, there's a lot of great pictures from this shoot. There's records everywhere in that store. She was sitting on the floor and leaning over some of the record shelving units and stuff. There's some really dope pictures in this shoot.
Might have to do another segment later on.
Right.
So do you so that's kind of a perfect lead into what I was going to ask. So you find a cool location like that, and you said you had just got the D850. All you had were crop lenses at the time. Yep. Is it something you want to go back, because now your kit has expanded and you have different lenses and you have different ideas with those? Do you ever revisit?
Yeah, a lot of my shoots, I kind of like, I try do like certain shoots, and I just do like a one and done. And other ones I do like try to go back and like recreate some of them. That's one of the ones I do want to recreate. But I think I'm gonna go up to Montague. Montague has a record store up there too. I actually shot outside of it. They have they did a graffiti mural on the side of her building, and the owner of that one actually came outside too. And I told her what I was doing, and I told her I shot at the other record store, which she knew about. She's like, "Well, you want to come back and shoot here? You have permission too." So I was like, "Cool." So I'm gonna try to remake that shoot, but just do it at her location next time.
That's awesome. So you mentioned like way earlier that kind of like the first model, or well, maybe it wasn't the first model shoot you did, but you said you had met somebody through Model Mayhem, and then that kind of just led into, getting into some of these publications and stuff. How do you find models now? Is Model Mayhem still like a big deal, or do you do other ways?
I have not used Model Mayhem in maybe about 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And like right now, like I used to go out and like just I see somebody, I handpick models, or I get a model sent to me. And like now it's got word of mouth now. So everybody I shoot with, they've been recommended friends to come shoot with me. So it's kind of how I see Jerry do it. I've been with him and see people walk up and they know who he is because of Instagram. Yeah.
So yeah, once you got that portfolio out there and people are seeing what you're doing, it's probably easier, at least, to have people just come up. So yeah, that's sweet. Do you have any projects you're working on or things you're looking forward to doing, in the, maybe after winter? I don't know. Do you shoot a lot of that stuff in the winter, or do you slow down?
I still shoot in the wintertime too. I like come inside a little more in the wintertime to shoot, but I do like shooting outside too. But my main project over the winter is for Jerry James to give me a tutorial in his Lightroom that he made me purchase, because
we can't do nothing. Greg's got a dope studio in his basement, Jamie. I'm gonna have to take you over there.
You're gonna show him how to shoot tethered in Lightroom?
Well, we can't do nothing until he gets that support beam up.
Hey, it is up now. It is official. It is up. As of 2 hours ago, it is up, Jerry.
Right.
I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm just for some reason, I imagine a pole or a swing or chains. I don't know what.
Hey,
again,
both up.
Right? Yeah. Oh yeah, he's got a pole and a swing now.
Yeah. And I know you're probably not joking, but so in the wintertime, then it sounds like it's like a lot of studio stuff indoors. And then so next year, I'm really hung up on these bikes, man. And do you
Them
do
Super
cars?
73s? Oh, wrong bikes.
Do you do cars and stuff too?
Yeah, actually, I did a combination. I started shooting cars, so I think my third calendar, I did a combination of custom motorcycles, and I did a bunch of like historical and muscle cars, and I collided them together into the calendar shoot. And I think that was my third calendar that I did.
Sweet, nice. Yeah. So do you like? I know it seems like every small town in Michigan and probably across America, like one day a week, there's like all these people just kind of bring in their old cars and just hang out like on the main street or in a parking lot somewhere. You ever go up to those places and just kind of find cars to shoot that way, or bikes? I mean, because I know there's a ton of bike meetups all the time.
Yeah, I got a couple guys that work with me. They go to all the car shows every week, and they let me know when they are too. So I go out there, try to hang out with them, get to know the other owners, then photograph them. Yeah, like I photograph their cars, and like I said, Jerry do too. I get an image made up for them and give it back to them.
Yep, cool, very cool. Well, Jerry, you got any questions? I don't. My mouth's dry and I'm out of water, and I talk a lot. So
no, not really. I mean,
it's hard for you to ask questions because you hang out with Greg all the time.
Yeah, I talk to him all day long, every day. Yeah.
Yep.
So what's in store for the studio over the winter? You got anything you're working on? And any what are you doing for New Year's in there, man?
All right, I'll let you guys talk about that offline, Jerry. I know what you're doing. No, but I guess before we go though, Greg, I'll have you after the show's done. I'm gonna have Greg send me all his social information, and I'll share that in the show description and stuff like that. But if you want to shout out right now your Instagram handle so people can go check it out.
Instagram is at Team Kaw-Boi, and Team Kaw-Boi is spelled as Kawasaki. It's a Kaw-Boi. Once again, at Team Kaw-Boi. Teamboi. Excuse me, Teamkawboi.
Yep, guys, go give him a follow. His work is on fire, and people in the chat were digging it. So that's really cool. It's fun to have you on because honestly, like most people that we've had on, yeah, there we go, right there.
The plug.
Screenshot it, folks. Most of the people that we have on though are just like the stuff that I shoot, you know, landscapes and birds and weather. You know, we've never had anybody really other than I can't say nobody. Jerry shoots a lot of the models and things like that, like you do. So, but it's cool to have somebody who hasn't been on. We'd love to have you back on again too in the future if you get a project coming up or some new stuff you want to share. Always welcome.
Definitely. I'm gonna get with you too about that train you talked about last. I told him to come down and shoot that train. So
for sure, definitely
I'll let you know when I come down.
Good deal. All right, cool. I guess we're gonna cut out. Just thanks everybody for tuning in. It's the new day moving here forward, so it's always going to be every other Thursday at 8 p.m. And don't think that we forgot about that keyboard giveaway. That's happening on New Year's Eve. If Jerry's coming on, or
I'll be here.
Cowboys at the studio on the swing and the pole or what? But
the support beam, support beam, man.
Yep,
I'll go live next time from the studio.
The emotional support beam.
Right.
But yeah, so we'll be on New Year's Eve. We're gonna draw the person who's gonna win that keyboard from Collude, and I'll see if I can find something else to give away. I got a lot of stuff that is collecting dust that could probably do better in someone else's home. So, hey, thanks again, Greg, for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Hey, thank you for having me.
And we'll see everybody in 2
weeks.